Hi, I'm Enchanting Nubia Net. Welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm going to focus on a jaw-dropping news story that took place in Surprise, Arizona. This story is not only jaw-dropping, but extremely disturbing. It's a flashing red light for every single adult who cares about the mental, emotional, and physical safety of children, not only here in the United States, but everywhere around the world. Now, back in October 2024, at Legacy Traditional School, West Surprise Campus, four fifth grade girls, yes, I said that right, YouTube family, four fifth graders, ages 10 to 11, were arrested for allegedly plotting to ending in R, a fellow student. Now, according to police reports, now this was just released in June, the girls had devised a plan to lure a boy into a school bathroom, poke him with a sharp object in his stomach, and form an S note. I cannot say the word on YouTube, to make it look like it was him. Now, the motive, you cannot believe. Let me continue. One of the girls was reportedly in a quote-unquote relationship with the boy and believed he had cheated on her. That's right, a relationship drama at the tender age of 10, escalating to an M ending in R plot. Now, the girl allegedly told investigators that she, in quotes, hated him and wanted him transitioned, end of quotes. Now, could you imagine, everyone? This is horrendous, but let's continue. The plan was, and these details are so chilling, brace yourselves. One girl was going to bring the sharp object, another one was going to be a lookout, the third girl was going to write the fake S note, and they all planned to wear gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints. So this wasn't just playground gossip, this wasn't child's play. This was a coordinated plan, and it only came to light because another student, thankfully, you see how miracles work if you believe in them, I do. Another student overheard the conversation and told their parent, who then alerted the school. Now, thankfully, that child had the mindset to know that it was wrong, what they were planning, to know that they were harmful and dangerous, and they had a good communication with their parent. And that parent also was awesome because they, assertively made sure that other adults were told, and it prevented this from happening. Thank goodness for both of them. So here's the aftermath. So when they were questioned, 3 of the girls expressed remorse. Thank goodness, because that shows they still have a conscience, and they have, they realize that what they were plotting was extremely wrong. However, one of the girls reportedly laughed, and she even made excuses for that behavior. Horrible and very, very terrifying. All 4 girls were arrested for threatening and disorderly conduct. They were suspended, and they definitely face possible expulsion. And the school released a statement emphasizing their commitment to student safety. But everyone, let's be real, this is bigger than just one school. As I said, these type of mindset and, what's happening in, especially here in the United States, where we have so much crime, extremely, every single minute of the day, every single day, there's extreme crimes taking place. Now it trickles down to not even only high schoolers, but this is elementary school. It's extremely scary. And I just have to say that it's so important that Thankfully these kids were caught, and the school must provide a strong support system in order to, shape their mindset and to teach them how to be an upstanding citizen. I don't know what the parents are doing in this situation, who the parents are, what type of household they're in, but this is extremely wrong. I have never heard of anything like this before, with children this young. It's extremely terrifying. And as a millennial professional, someone who works in the education community, it's a sounding alarm. We cannot afford to ignore any of these emotional and psychological landscapes with any of these children. Doesn't matter what, demographics or, who the children are, the location or anything. We need to see that these are children and they need help navigating in this world. These girls, as I said before, they're barely out of elementary school, and yet they're dealing with these adult type of, issues, betrayal. When you're in fifth graders, you're in elementary school. Everyday life should be about playing and, with your friends, sharing with one another. I know that times have changed and kids are not as innocent as when I was growing up, but this is extreme. Again, they need to have a lot more limitations and guidance for these children. Too many kids are raising themselves. Where does a rage come in? Where you like a boy, and then just because he makes friends with another girl, you want to transition him? Why is it so much? Why is it so permanent? Why isn't a fifth grader able to just move on and say, okay, he doesn't like me anymore? You do feel hurt even at fifth grade. However, there are other boys, and there's so many other things to do as a girl. I mean, you're a young girl. There's so many hobbies. There's so many, new dances that the girls can do together, books, teen books that you can read, going out, to different, maybe even going out to the mall together, doing other educational activities than just focus on a boy and having a boyfriend. You're 10 years old, too young. That's my opinion. And even this act of violence, horrible. It's like characters in a crime drama. So this, again, is not only about Arizona. It's about the United States and anywhere around the world where they have this situation. But we know for a fact that definitely here in the United States, this is prominent. And I have to ask, what are these kids watching? This is the reason why when they took away the PG, guidelines, and again, too many children are watching shows where their parents are not there to see what is happening. All these things they're watching on television, they have to realize and they have to be taught. A lot of times they may not realize it on their own because, again, they're not emotionally or developmentally there yet as far as maturity. They need to have guidance. When I was younger, of course, there were soap operas on television. But I remember my father would not even let me watch them because, again, there's adult situations that would occur in soap operas, And of course, I was, not pleased because I wanted to see it. You want to be, watching grown-up things. But it was necessary because I shouldn't even know what is happening with adult relationships or certain emotions. Children are not ready for these type of things. Again, who are these kids talking to when they're online all the time? Who are they interacting with when they're, playing videos together? Parents should be there. They should monitor every single thing that the child is watching, that the child is doing online, and even have open communication, have conversations with the students or your child regarding processing emotions like jealousy, you know, rejection. Yes, everyone goes through a rejection. We cannot have everything we want, even as adults, but definitely as children, they need to learn this. You have to overcome that hurdle. Yes, you're going to have pain about it, but you have to be able to bounce back and know that tomorrow is another day. Focus on something else. You can obtain something else. You can develop other friendships. And where does this rage come from? Again, where you cannot just let it go. So we need to stop assuming that quote unquote kids will be kids, because this day and age and the information that's out there online, and many kids have their phones in elementary school. It's really extreme. It's too much for these kids to handle, especially if their parents are not really hands-on in their life. So we need to start asking a lot of questions, deeper questions, and even to teach kids emotional intelligence, conflict resolution. If you and another friend are not getting along, what can you do so you can resolve the situation? What are some words that you can exchange and you can communicate, how you feel? It's not the end of the world. How you can, become friends again. Maybe you need your space. There's a process. And also to model healthy relationships. And it shouldn't only be relied only on teachers to do this. This should be implemented at home. But again, I have to say it, there's so many, and this is the reason. We can see it. There's so many people who have children, and honestly, they're not emotionally mature themselves. And that's the problem. There's a lot of parents, I don't know the statistics, but there's some parents that are doing a superb job with their child. They're learning, how to become an even better parent, but other parents are really absent, or the actions and the mindset they have, what they're saying, in front of their children, and their behavior, how they're living, is not healthy. Not healthy. So this incident, it definitely screams for better mental health support in all schools, especially here in the United States. We need a lot more counselors, social workers, trauma-informed educators, and that's another reason why it's important for more professional development in schools, for teachers to even know how to handle, this type of incident that is more like a high school level. These are not luxuries. And when it comes to funding, and I know that there's so many times that school funding is cut, we cannot continue cutting these school funds. We need even more trained staff. And if we don't invest in these things like the counselors, social workers, and informed educators, we're going to continue seeing more and more cases like this. I'm sad to say. I don't like even saying it, but that's the reality of it. So those of you who are parents, please check in with your kids on a daily basis. And of course, as educators, educators need to listen between the lines. And again, we need to advocate for more resources in schools. Because if a 10-year-old, if they can plan or they can plot for an M ending in R crime over a breakup, we all have serious work to do. Teachers, educators, community workers, we all need to work together. This is extremely scary. So, have you heard of this news story, everyone? What are your thoughts about it? Thank you so much for watching. Again, I would like to hear your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Yes, please share this story. Help other people to be aware of what is going on. And stay safe wherever you are, and keep your head on a swivel at all times. whether you're indoors or outdoors,